Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to another Starfield video. Today we're going to take a look at the combat that we saw at last night's showcase, the gameplay showcase, and see what's what, do a bit of a deep dive, and get stuck into this. So let's get cracking. Okay, so we had quite a lot shown in the showcase yesterday. There's a couple of things I wanted to jump into first, and if you want to have a look at my overview of the whole sort of reaction to the showcase, then I've got a video on that went up last night, so I'll link that up in the corner for you. Check that one out. Thank you very much to everybody who's already done that. The other thing I wanted to say is, if you haven't seen it yet, go onto Bethesda's YouTube channel and check out the 4K sort of re-upload video of the showcase, because the live stream version of it kind of didn't do it justice, really. It was down at 1080p, obviously compressed by being live streamed and lower bit rates and all that stuff, and kind of didn't show things off to their best advantage, which is a bit of a pity, really, because when you actually look at the 4K version of it, which is what we're going to be doing here, it's not going to be in 4K when you guys get it, unfortunately, but it actually looks a lot clearer and a lot better, so yeah, it shows it off to it a more realistic view of what it actually looks like, which is worthwhile. I'll link that showcase video down below, so you can check that one out if you do. I'd recommend watching it on a decent sized screen, decent quality screen if you've got the option as well, because mobile phones are all well and good, but you really need to see it on a screen that's actually capable of showing it off. So that's just a little suggestion, but let's jump into the showcase and have a look at the gameplay, well, the combat elements specifically today.
According to the scanners, the abandoned research facility.
Okay, let's stop that there just for a moment. So, please excuse the YouTube overlay that I can't get rid of right now, but we've got a couple of looks at UI here, which kind of relates into combat, even though we're not right into it yet. So we've got a nice little clean bar down here with all of your sort of combat information on it. Obviously, we've got an icon for the gun there. It's a semi-auto pistol of some kind, Eon apparently. Whether or not that's going to be an energy weapon, well, we'll see some footage of that in a bit, so maybe it is. Health bars, I'm kind of mixed feeling on that one. We've been tucked in the bottom corner. It's kind of a little bit out of sight, so if you want to keep an eye on it while you're being shot at, that's not ideal. On the other hand, an unobtrusive, relatively speaking, overlay and UI is not such a bad thing, so that's cool. Also got a track of the ammunition there. We've got 12 shots in the magazine, and a whole bunch more on the side there as well. And then frag grenades tracked as well. I'm actually quite pleased with how the frag grenades look, so that's quite cool.
Is in this direction.
So if we pause it here again, obviously you can see another tool showing down here, the cutter. This is a mining tool, and obviously there's going to be some comparisons to No Man's Sky there. Using a tool to mine, well, that kind of makes sense. You don't generally mine with your fingernails, so yeah, obviously there's going to be some kind of tool. Obviously the big difference with No Man's Sky is your mining tool and your gun are the same thing in No Man's Sky. In Starfield, quite clearly not the case. We're going to see quite a range of weapons in this, which is cool. Okay, so it looks like we've got a little look at a creature here. I'm going to pause that there, managed to get that on the right spot. Obviously, pistols come up, and we're taking a look at the creature. Similar to kind of Fallout, something like that. We've got a little bit of information about it over its head. Whether or not this is tied to skills and stuff, I don't know, because if you have a look at Fallout, you need specific skills to get details and extra information up there. This may just be the basic one, and you can have a skill that will pop up some extra details about the resistances, possibly. That would be quite cool. But for now, it's just the name of it, its health bar, and the level of the enemy, which is always handy, because then you know whether or not it's going to eat you, which seems like a genuine concern with a crazy space alien like this. I do like the design on it. But the fact that it only comes up when you bring your gun up and point it at it is quite cool, because it's contextual, and I like that as well. Okay, so we've got that scanning resources and mining stuff going on here again. That's fair. So we've got the cutter here, which looks like a really big, chunky piece of machinery. That's not... This is clearly not a weapon or a light piece of gear. That is a heavy mining piece of equipment. That does not look light, which is quite cool. That makes sense. It's a tool, not a weapon. I mean, it'd be nice if it was lighter. I'm sure that would make it easier for the people who have to use it. But a big chunky thing like that is really cool. The details look really nice on it. You've even got little bits of wear and tear on there that really look quite nice. You can see on the corners where the paint's kind of rubbed off a bit. That's quite cool. Interestingly, the charge is not going down on this, which I'm guessing is something that needs working on. Whether or not that's a visual thing and it is depleting, it's not showing because pre-release build of the game, or it's just something that they may be turned off for the purposes of catching this recording. That's also a possibility. I think we will see those numbers change in just a moment, though, with a different weapon, so... So, skipping on, we have a first look at the Crete Research Lab, and we get some more of the scanning elements to give you information before you're going into battle, which is quite cool. That makes sense with the sci-fi advanced setting.
It would appear that pirates of the Crimson Fleet are using the...
So we're getting a look at this pistol in a bit more detail now that we're in first person. We've got some reasonable iron sights. They're basic, but, you know, they're iron sights. It's not rocket science. To be honest, the fact that it's so wide at the front doesn't exactly give me good vibes about how pinpoint accurate those iron sights might be. But I like the design of the gun. It looks pretty cool. Got a brand name on there as well, and some sci-fi doohickeys and stuff going on. Looks cool. Like the red and gold's quite nice as well. Definitely got a clean-looking sci-fi thing that blends in with a lot of the other art style as well. That's what you'd expect. Ooh. So we get a look now at the sort of quick wheel hotbar thing. It's obviously a controller version of it here, and it looks a lot like Fallout 3, except it's popping up in the middle of the screen. We've got Grendel here, which is the sort of SMG, AR, P90 in the future kind of vibe going on here. This is what we're going to be using in a moment. There's the double-barreled shotgun over here, pistol, and that looks like the cutter from the icon we saw before, which is quite cool. It's simple, it's clean, it shows you what's going on, and you get pop-ups for what you're actually looking at, which is cool. You can quickly see what you're looking for. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Looks cool. So let's get stuck into the actual fighting part. Nice little reload animation there. I really like the look of this gun, actually. It's really stylish. Actually, let's take a moment and look at this before we do the fighting. Sorry. But you've got, like, you can see some of the modularity of it here, particularly around the sights. If we go back a second or so, if I can. What are we on? 416? Let's stop it there while we're up in the air. Apparently things are going a bit weird. But you can really see different bits, pieces, and all the kind of components of the gun. All of the printing on it looks really nice. But particularly with that scope from the angle we've got here, you can see that looks really like it's something that the player can modify. And we know that you're going to be able to modify your guns. We see a clip of that later on. So that's quite cool. Yeah, I mean, this looks to be basically some kind of weird bolt-on iron sight vibe. But, okay, just what it is. Bound to be other options. Ooh, we'll stop there and have another look at this iron sight. Now we've gone into a nice dark room. We've got glow sights on it as well, so everything's lighting up so you can see what you're doing easier. That's going to be handy. Yeah, definitely useful. And you've got a little ammo counter on the top, which is cool. So let's get into the first bit of combat now. A couple of pirates with their back to us. So there's a few things to look at here. I'll take this back a little bit and then we can have a look at it again. So we're sneaking up. So you don't know if you noticed there, but obviously the player character just dropped down a little bit and crouched. So they're obviously going into a fairly standard sneak mechanic. It's pretty normal for so many games, that. And yeah, fair. That's about what we'd expect. So that explains why they haven't noticed us yet. One of the big things people talked about is the fact this guy doesn't seem to react to being shot. I'm thinking the major reason for that is he's stuck in his standing up animation. It could be a general issue, but this guy specifically, he's partway through his standing up from being crouched there when he actually gets shot. I'm suspecting that's preventing him from reacting in another way. In terms of the sound of the gun and the recoil, something else that I've noticed and I know other people have commented on, I think I'm fine with that. This is obviously an advanced space gun 200 years in the future. I think, what was it, 2330, wasn't it? So yeah, 200 years in the future. The idea that gun technology wouldn't advance in that time would be crazy. It's entirely possible that this does not use a chemical propellant to fire the bullet. It might be using something else in there. It's got a very mechanical tone to it. So maybe there's some kind of mechanical mechanism that's slinging bullets out rather than an explosion. If I remember rightly, we'll have a double check on this theory in a moment. There's not a great deal of muzzle flare either, which is a good thing from being point of view of being able to see what you're doing. So that might lend some extra credence to that if that's the case. We'll double check that in a moment. But yeah, obviously, if it's not explosions and chemicals combusting to fire the bullet, recoil might not be the same sort of thing. And it seems like the sort of thing you'd want to improve in guns over time. Less recoil is good. Obviously, that does affect how realistic it looks to a sort of modern-day eye, but it's sci-fi, it's in the future. So there's a decent bit of muzzle flare there, actually. I'll take that previous statement back a little bit. It's not overbearing, you can still see what you're doing, which is great, because Something I have noticed on occasion, particularly in Fallout 76, for example. Sometimes the muzzle flare is so bright that when you're looking through the sights, you just can't see a damn thing. And that's not the best thing ever. But, yeah, if we kind of scrub this back a little bit and look at this guy getting shot again.
Hey,
there you go. And he's starting to turn just before he hits the deck, because that actual burst of fire on him did not take very long to take him down. Which is not surprising. Level 2, we know this is very, very early in the game. Ooh, cool point there. Yeah, I think he just hadn't got out of his previous animation in time to turn. He was starting to go around a little bit as he hit the deck, so I'm thinking that's probably what you're seeing there. So before we crack on, we've got some red dots around the HUD here. I'm guessing that this outer bar here must be a compass. That's obviously what's in front of you and what you can see. So stuff that's on the screen, I'm thinking, is this lighter, whiter patch here. It's gone a bit red, which presumably indicates you're in combat. And then we've got some other red markers for the location of other enemies too, which is cool. The kind of compass radar vibe, circa, well, Skyrim or Fallout. We know Todd Howard's not a fan of mini-maps. He has explicitly said this before. That's why he does things like compasses and like that in Fallout and in Skyrim as well. So we're seeing a version of that come back here, and I'm fine with that. So we're also shooting this guy who's running towards us. And as one of the things that kind of pops up a bit in this is that there's a lot of hip firing going on, which sees a lot of spraying of bullets all over the place, which is usually the way things go with hipfire. I think if it's good to see both sides of that, ADS and hipfire, but a bit more ADS would be nice to see, so it would see how guns handle better in what I guess you'd have to call their primary firing mode. So, but there is some of both of that in there, so we'll keep an eye on that. We've got an XP pop-up there. I don't like that the XP pop-up's in the middle of the screen. I'd rather see it kind of pop up down here or something, just because it pulls detail off and kind of distracts from what's going on in front of you. I mean, this isn't too bad, but hopefully anything like that will be over the side. So this guy's just been casually hip-fired down. That's quite a loud gun sound, which is quite cool. Something about caseless ammunition on there. Just makes sense. Explains why there's nothing flying out of it. Kind of practical as well. Yeah, that guy's getting up. He starts to turn and go down. And that guy's running at you, getting sprayed up. Not a huge amount of recoil again. But there's a good grip on this gun. There's a bit of rise on that. There's definitely a bit of rise on this gun. You can see that come there. But there's a really sizable front grip on it. You can sort of see it at the bottom here. So being able to keep that down, reduce the recoil. This stuff at the bottom might well be modular, and maybe there's attachments on it that are helping reduce the recoil. We are going to see perks, I think, as well, or skills, rather, that help you to control recoil as well, so you'll just see less recoil on the screen from that. That may be in effect here, or it may not. Yeah, guns not recoiling is a weird thing, and it doesn't look particularly normal to look at. Some guns that we're going to see in a minute, those definitely do have a lot more recoil, which makes sense. So I'm guessing it's something to do with how advanced this particular weapon is. But, yeah, looks alright to me. Nice reload animation. So he's moving quite quickly there. Hip firing that guy was not the move, I don't think. That was would not have been my play. I'd have definitely ADS'd on that guy. We see some shots going wide because of that. That's fine. Characters moving quite swiftly. They're ducking down reasonably well. I think that's okay. I think, as with any new game, you have to get used to how the movement controls and the gunplay works together. I think this is going to be reasonably okay once you get the hang of it. Ducking into cover, moving. It looks like it's better than it is in Fallout games. You've got a bit more responsiveness to it, so I'm fine with that. Again, ducking into cover there, just managed to move quite smoothly. And this, as I say, is probably still controller gameplay. Harder to tell right now. But if it is, I managed to get into that cover and out of the line of fire quite nicely there. I think that moved okay. The frag grenade I really liked. A lot of times in games you'll see a massive fiery explosion from a frag grenade, and that's just not how frag grenades work. It's more like a loud bang, a little bit of smoke, and stuff flies everywhere. From what I understand from people who've actually seen grenades going off. I'm not one of those people, but from what I understand anyway. So this actually brings it down to something that's a bit more realistic than the hyper-stylized stuff you often get in games. I'm sure there are those who know more about this than I do who can pick out problems with it, but it is closer to reality than we often see. It's also not blowing the entire room to bits either. It's just blowing up in its small location and then spraying shrapnel out. It's a frag grenade, it says so in the bottom corner, so yeah, I like that. That's a good portrayal of it. Mind you, the guy who was actually standing on the top of it, he seems to have taken off, so let's have a little look at that. Although I suppose if you are standing right on the top of it, you might well take off. There's the grenade. Yeah, he was right on top of that and it catapulted him. The physics are a bit OTT there. On the other hand, yeah, it's kind of entertaining. It's fun, it's gameplay, it's gamified. I'm okay with that. Let's go back a little bit again and have a look at this first bit of shooting on the first character. So we're moving quite swiftly. Drop down. Reasonable spray on that guy. Bit of missing. I could say I'd have ADS'd. But in terms of how that works, that looks okay to me. Recoil was, again, not massive. But, yeah, character's clearly got two hands on the gun there. And, well, sci-fi guns. So, as I say, we'll see in a minute more about the recoil. Most of those bullets are actually going where he's pointing the gun. Interestingly, I haven't noticed yet, I'm going to do this again, an on-screen crosshair, which may be a choice, or it may be, player choice, or it may just be that the game doesn't have an on-screen crosshair. I know at least one person will be happy if it doesn't. Either way, I think I'm fine with that. I mean, like I say, I'm likely to ADS anyway, so... Yeah, definitely no crosshair there. But that may just be player choice. So we're going to hop over to the Coachman shotgun, for which apparently they have a decent number of shells. And see this. This thing looks really, really cool. I like this kind of sci-fi shotgun design. It's pretty decent. Seems a bit odd to see us side by side being used as a combat weapon in a sci-fi future. But you got to have shotties, and this seems like a reasonably cool sci-fi take on it. The fact that the shells are square, we'll see that on the reload, is quite a different take, but quite cool as well. That guy made some noise when he went down. That guy definitely went, "Ugh," when he went down. I'm fine with that. Let's go back and have a look at this weapon change again. A bit further back, apparently. So it looks like there that when you pull up the weapon wheel, the game goes into extreme slow-mo. Doesn't look like it's stopping altogether. I'm going to look at it one more time. But it goes and really slows down time, lets you select what you need, and then picks up the pace when you come back out again. We see some cool reloads that are slowed down but later on, but whether or not that's sort of cutscene or not, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. Yeah, that guy didn't seem to enjoy getting shot very much. Well, there's an issue. This looks kind of square. That looks like an ordinary jacketed bullet. So, why that's coming out of a shotgun, I don't know. Bethesda. The fact this is square, I'm not sure about. I think that's probably just not a great rendering of a very small, fast-moving object. Yeah, square-ish barrel, sort of slots for the shell. I mean, it probably does go circular further down the barrel, but that would just slot them in neatly and hold them in place, and it's just different. It's odd, but it's different. There's a lot of people commenting online that enemies don't make any noise when they get shot. Some of them do, some of them don't. If they're all screaming all the time, that'd be a bit much for my taste. On the other hand, you know, they are making noise and they are responding, at least some of the time. It's possible that Bethesda will work on this and put more feedback to enemies getting shot over time. We'll have to actually wait and see. Interesting point here, though. Looks like you got a day-night indicator here, time of day with how far the sort of line and the light to dark half of the world is appearing on there, which is quite cool. And we've got the name of the planet, or moon in this case, Crete. Yeah, this looks pretty cool. We've got a wooden stock, which is interesting. And then a lot of high-tech kind of space shotgun thing going on. Fairly basic iron sight. This actually looks like a better iron sight. Might actually indicate the point you're aiming at more clearly than the pistol one does. Something more like this on the pistol would have been better. I like the little release levers for the barrel. You know, obviously it breaks open. Those are interesting. I didn't happen to notice a guy using them when he reloaded a second ago, though. It was a bit of an odd. Ah! It looks like they popped open automatically. And you then press the button on the side to make it pop down. Yeah. Got a release lever there, so it looks like they... some kind of locking mechanism. Why it's got thumb grips on it, I don't know. But there we go. So we've got an Equinox that we can... Yeah, we're still on control gameplay here. Take and hold to equip. That's something they've added in 76, hold to equip, which is fair. That's a nice little way of just immediately grabbing the thing you picked up. That's a nice little quality of life touch. So we can see that hop in. Health bar's obviously dropping there. And this is much more of a space sci-fi gun we're about to see. There we go. You get a better look at the thing there. It looks a bit like a squarer, blockier version of the Grendel that we saw earlier. The submachine gun AR type deal that we were looking at before. It's similar. We're going to see in a moment that it actually behaves quite differently, and it looks more like an energy weapon, whereas the Grendel looks like a ballistic one, called the Equinox. So, first look, you can't see a huge amount there. And some nice shiny lights, some black and gold detail. Always looks cool. There we go. Credit to people who spotted this before. But weapons on your back. Not been a thing in a Bethesda game for a little while now. But the fact that it's come back and you can actually see a weapon on your back when you stow it is quite cool. That's a nice little touch, nice little detail. And doesn't have that fantasy storing the weapon in some unknowable place or possibly some place that makes it very uncomfortable to walk around vibe. So down for that. So yeah, straight off the bat, that sounds like an energy weapon report. It's quite a slow firing one from the look of this. We take a little minute to look at the detailing on the gun here. Black and gold, looks slick. Fairly standard looking iron sight. That's fine. Obviously, you'll be able to mod that out, I would assume, and attach a more advanced sight of some kind to it if you want to, if you're into this particular gun. Yeah, it looks like an energy weapon to me. No idea about ammunition types and whether or not there are multiple ones. Fallout certainly has multiple ammo types, so it seems conceivable that this game will as well. We don't see any sign of enemies dropping ammo or dropping any loot at all at this point, so how that works, we'll have to wait and see. So I actually do want to go back a little bit here, because there's something to talk about. A bit too far, but... So stop there, you'd see this guy, who looks like he's a boss-type character, actually, because he's named. Wait. There we go, it's a bit better now that the muzzle flare's gone. And it's a nice bright white one, because it's a laser weapon, although why that would have a muzzle flare at all, God knows. But anyway, it's an expected standard feature, I suppose that's why. This guy, Brogan, is clearly... Well, he's a higher level than everybody else for starters, and he's making a mad dash for cover. Right, you've come out of that door firing, and he is running for cover. So a few people have talked about the AI not being the smartest. Fair. It's a massive open-world RPG with so many different elements. Bethesda's AI... It's never been insanely high-tier Special Forces level enemies. That's just not what Bethesda do. I think expecting it to be is a little overly optimistic, shall we say. But it looks more or less functional. There's room for it to be a bit smarter, but we see this, I say, this guy dashing for cover. His cover doesn't work out so hot. We also see this guy moving towards cover in a moment, but he's moving slowly and firing, because video games, you move slower when you're firing, you know. But... yeah, he clearly is doing that, and there's some kind of sensible-ish AI going on there. I think like the worst interpretation is based on that initial clip that we looked at the first bit when we shot those guys in the back. And I think that's just they're a bit slow on the uptake because you're sneaking up on them and the guys in animation when you're doing so. So, yeah, I think this seems okay for now. Tagged him in the head there. Again, I'd hip firing and go for the head. Okay, fair enough. This does look a little bit more precise than the weapons we've seen so far, but an energy weapon, you'd think it probably would be.
You're gonna pay for that!
That is a massive cartridge to reload, and I can't make out what it says on the side there. I don't think we're going to be able to either. No, it doesn't look like it. It looks actually like it might be the same thing as up here, the manufacturer's name, possibly. So we've got a little ADS there. Nice to finally see a bit more of that. To be honest, actually seeing what you're aiming at, that's maybe a little tight, that iron sight, but, you know, different guns have different quality of iron sights, really, don't they? Let's go back a little bit further. Yeah, this does look like a really cool sci-fi, very, very blocky, mass-produced kind of science fiction weapon. Yeah, it harks back to the laser rifles in Fallout. but a little bit more streamlined than those, which is definitely an improvement. Those are a bit too chunky. It blocks up a lot of the screen, though, so I don't think I'd be a fan personally. Like that. That's a lot of screen blocked, and that sight is not the best to be looking through. Looks effective. That's certainly the case. I like that the guy jumped up on the top there. That's not the smartest tactical move ever, but it's I'm a dumbass pirate move, definitely. We have liftoff. I love that. You shot the guy in the backpack and his jetpack, and it overloaded it and triggered it in some way, and he just got catapulted into the sky. That's funny. That's Bethesda's physics-based humour in there that I find really cool. Ooh, liquefied helium-3 on there. Definitely don't want to shoot that if you can avoid it. You know, we've obviously hit this guy's jetpack on his back. The whole thing's now malfunctioning, and he's about to leave the planet. I do like the look of his outfit, though. It's really cool, detailed. It's good. It feels almost like a shotgun, this, with its slow fire rate and sort of high per-shot damage. Possibly more of a rifle sniper vibe, but without a scope on it. But who knows, it might be cooler once it's upgraded. So, jetpack. We have one. We are using it here. We're going to see the guy hovering in combat. He's also switched to another weapon now, the Maelstrom, which looks to be a kind of, again, assault rifle, submachine gun type vibe. Looks like it's a bit more in the style of the Crimson Fleet pirates that we're going to see, if you have a look at the outfits and compare it to the way the gun looks. This looks like it's a bit more ramshackle, and it looks like there's a lot more recoil on this, so if you have a look at that closely. Loving the jetpack, loving the fact that we can use it in combat to reposition, hover in the air. It's quite a cool style. Showing it off in third person is obviously a look at it in third person vibe thing. I think it's probably going to be a bit more practical if you're not changing your perspective immediately when you want to start shooting or midway through combat, but as far as showing it off goes, I can see why they did. But yeah, if you look at the art style on the ship, the art style on the Crimson Fleet sort of spacesuits, and this gun that we're about to see, they are quite similar, and the recoil, definitely better. Or bigger. You see that jumping around all over the place, having a hard time controlling that. There you go, you see that's absolutely flying about the spot there. Let's take it back a little further. So, although we can't hear him shout, the music's very, very loud, and I think that's probably why. But you can see the guy's like, ah! And he's reacting to the fact that his backpack just got shot to... You can finish that sentence. Doing a bit of a Superman with a gun thing there. Yeah, this is an odd gun sound. Very kind of mechanical again. I mean, the previous one obviously sounded way more energy weapon in its style. This one's definitely a more mechanical vibe. As you see, that is doing this while he's trying to fire it. Or she, can't actually tell. But yeah, I'm down for that. That looks more like it. So we've got different weapons with different properties, I think is what we're seeing here. So that's fine. You got this guy who's like, hell no, I am getting the F out of Dodge right now and trying to get the heck away from where the bullets are spraying around. Not astoundingly out there revolutionary AI, but at least he's doing the sensible thing and trying to nope out of there. Obviously somebody having difficulty getting their crosshair on target there. Yeah, this is obviously a much harder weapon to control compared to some of the other ones. It does look less advanced. Again, if we look at it closely in just a second, as I said, it matches the style of the Crimson Fleet. I think it's probably been picked up off a body. We haven't seen the looting part of the game yet. Hopefully we will before long, but I'm guessing that's what's occurred here. There we are, let's pause that there. So you see what I mean with the style of Crimson Fleet and this definitely more basic looking gun that's got like pipes and stuff strapped to it and more fabrics and stuff. Still looks relatively high-tech, sort of sci-fi future thing. And we've got a kind of LCD crystal display on there, which is cool. But it fits these guys' vibes. There's a grenade about to go off, apparently. Grenade indicator looks fine. And yeah, it's definitely a lot more wild. The grip is much less advanced. With the Grendel that we saw, there was a proper front grip built in, and you could clearly get a better grip on that gun. So less recoil, or better recoil control perhaps. Whereas this one, you're gripping the body of the gun underneath with a hand like that. That's you're not going to get as strong a grip if you can't get your fingers all the way around it. So, yeah, that makes sense to the style of recoil. I think I'm down with this. I like the little wires and details and stuff on this as well. It's a cool looking gun, even if it is a bit hectic. A bit of an overly complex iron sight going on there, but I guess it does the job. Well, when you can finally point it at the enemy, anyway. And it looks like the... Ooh, yeah, actually, that's something worth mentioning. I just thought. Time to kill. I've just noticed this. The bad guys are going down reasonably quickly. They don't look horrifically bullet spongy. Obviously, if we look at Bethesda's previous games, particularly the Fallout series, because guns, then a lot of the enemies are bullet spongy as heck. That's how they make them tougher. Obviously, we're only seeing really low-level enemies here, but they are getting shredded by these guns. You have to keep an eye on what happens to the player's health as well when they come out this door. Let's have a look at this back in just a sec. But, yeah, the enemies don't look as bullet spongy, or at least the pirates don't at this point, which is promising. So there's a lot of talk about that in Fallout and around Fallout. If they've managed to come up with a better way of handling it so the enemies can be more difficult or less difficult, but without them being bullet sponges, that may also explain in part why the AI is not too smart, maybe, on these low-level enemies, because rather than purely doing it off their health bar as to how tough they are, it's make them dumber so they're easier to take out. And as they get up to higher levels, maybe they'll be smarter, they might have better AI. Yeah, I'm sure the health bar will go up. But hopefully that will reduce some of the bullet sponginess and increase the difficulty of more difficult enemies, but through other means rather than just more bullets to take them down. I'm sure there will be an element of that, but if they've gone some way into reducing that, I'm definitely there for that. That would be very cool.
That's the Crimson Fleet!
Everybody get ready!
The fleet doesn't follow the rules. Agree to work for UCC Steph. Together, we take down these cutthroat pirates.
Okay, so we've got another tiny little clip of combat here. We're going to get a look at another gun. Some of this looks like it's cutscene. Some of it looks like it's actual combat. My guess is it's a cutscene that leads into a sort of story scripted combat scenario. So you'll have a bit of a cutscene that shows the pirates landing, and then it'll cut over to live action gameplay, and you'll pull out your gun and you'll go to town on them. Let's have a quick look at this again. So there you go. This is obviously the scripted cutscene bit. You can see somebody's running in there pulling out his gun. This is not live gameplay. The next bit will be. You can have a look at this gun for a minute, because we are actually going to see it in the player's hands in a minute. It's looks like there you go, Allied Armament, so we've got a different manufacturer here. It's definitely got a sci-fi vibe. Again, we've got SMG, AR kind of vibe somewhere in the middle there. Well, AR-99, there we go. We've got a model for it, so apparently this is the equivalent of an AR-15. It's an AR-99 by 200 years from now time. Fairly chonky looking magazine on the bottom of that. Decent forward grip on it. I'm guessing that'll be modular as well. Still on the iron sights. It looks alright. Space assault rifle. Yeah, I'm down with that. We'll see it in the player's hands in just a sec. There we go. Not going to be a fan of that iron sight. It looks reminiscent of an M16 iron sight. Obviously sci-fied up and changed a bit for the future and stuff. But nonetheless, it's somewhat M16 style. So there you go, AR-99, a little bit of detail on that. That's, again, it's blocky and square in the vibe of the energy weapons, but it looks like a ballistic assault rifle of some kind. Looks like it does the job. Some interesting hoses on there that God knows what those are for. We know nothing about how the insides of these guns work, and at least not yet anyway. And they're probably just there for looks. There's a good few examples of Bethesda guns where that's the case. Well, this guy is using a cutter, however, the mining tool that we saw at the start, to take out a pirate. So apparently that is an option. You can mine the crap out of him if you want to. So that looks reasonably effective. Again, we've got somebody hip firing, but yeah, you know, it is what it is. And yeah.
These cutthroat pirates.
It's like I say, this looks like a scripted event. They've got the Crimson Fleet pirates clearly landing on this landing pad. They're coming in to try and ruin everybody's day, and it's not going so well because presumably Constellation or somebody else have come out in what looks like a scripted event and then hopped into the combat side of things and massacred these foolish pirates.
The path ahead may be dangerous. But we are not stopping.
Most Dusties don't even...
So let's jump back a little bit there and have a look at that last bit. So yeah, I think we can start here. There's a couple of clips of combat in here that are quite cool, though.
The path ahead may be dangerous.
So, right off the bat there, we've got zero-G combat. So you can see the player making a leap over a zero-G environment. We're in zero-G. This looks again like a Crimson Fleet pirate. We seem to have the HUD turned off for this, so I'm guessing that's what's going on there. And yeah, we're floating around. Somebody else is apparently shooting. There's bullets coming past here. And that again looks like that Maelstrom weapon that we saw at the end of that first mission. This guy's getting shot to bits. He's reacting a little bit to getting hit. Not as much as we might like, but he is reacting.
Path ahead may be dangerous.
And so's the player. You see them kind of jerking as the bullets hit them. Zero-G combat is a really cool idea. We don't see it very often. Dead Space did a little bit of it. But it's not something you see in games very often for reasons of, I imagine, it's a pain in the butt to get going. But yeah, that's a cool thing. I'm guessing we're not going to be seeing that every 5 minutes. I'm guessing. But it should be cool nonetheless. Definitely up for a bit of zero-G combat. It's going to be, I imagine, more set-piece occasional thing, because from what I get the impression of from how infrequently it's used in games, that it's not the easiest thing to manage. But yeah, it looks reasonably cool. So we're on to yet another interesting looking weapon. God only knows what this thing does. Looks almost like it might be some kind of mini rocket launcher. Against some kind of nasty looking alien beastie who definitely looks like he's down to rain on your parade. Those mandibles look like they would really mess you up. And it looks like they've probably got cutting edges on the inside and obviously sharp points as well. That's going to like cut you in half if he gets hold of you. Well, I imagine it could.
The path ahead may be dangerous.
So we didn't see a whole lot there. We didn't see that gunfire, I don't think. Just a bit of a
The
pity.
path ahead may be dangerous.
No, we just saw a little bit of a reload animation. Okay. This is a cool idea, though, that we're going to see alien creatures inside of a corridor and having to fight them off there. That's, yeah, it's got Aliens vibes, and that's going to make an interesting scenario to try and deal with a big, nasty beast that's coming at your face. So that should be fun.
But we are not.
Let's see, just a couple of shots with a pistol there, which looks fine. Character got hit by this large, heavy monster and knocked back a little bit. Okay. So I can take a quick little stop here to have a look at the research lab and weaponry. Obviously, upgrading weapons is going to be a thing. We've kind of established that already, but here's a little look at some of it. So we've got some required materials there. Sealant, interesting. And we're looking at a barrel mod here. We can't do, presumably, barrel mods 2 because we haven't completed research project for barrel 1. There's grip mods, optics and sights, and muzzle mods. So, fairly similar to Fallout, but obviously Starfield-ified and made more sci-fi. So get a little look at this very, very compact-looking P90-esque gun, the Grendel, which is not actually labelled as the Grendel on here, interestingly, but we did see that earlier. Oh, wait, no, I think it kind of says it there. It's just hard to see. But yeah, I mean, what I was talking about before with the grips on this thing, look at the size of those grips. Controlling the recoil on that's got to be a lot easier than something that you just got a flat hand underneath. You get a much firmer grip on that. But it looks very, very cool. I'm guessing this is an early game weapon that we're going to acquire and be a main one. But yeah, being able to upgrade different weapons and stuff, and we can sort of see over here there's some kind of chemical stuff, there's food stuffs. This is probably base building, outpost building type research projects, and that looks to be spacesuit stuff. So yeah, fine with that. Obviously got certain skills required to get more advanced upgrades from the look of that, which is about what you'd expect, and the research tree details over there. So not exactly combat, but relevant to it. Let's just stop a moment and have a look at this, because we're getting a really nice close-up on this pistol here. This looks to be the Eon pistol that we saw at the start of the game, and a couple of shots of. Looks like we can get some kind of secondary thing on there, maybe a secondary fire mode. Got a little muzzle brake on there that I'm guessing is also an attachment that we add. Loving the style on this. This really takes all of the elements of the art style and puts them together in a really cool manner. A solid trigger there. And a high-capacity magazine that looks utterly absurd. But they usually do, so I'm okay with that. It's basically a mini drum on the bottom of a pistol. If that's your bag, go for it. Not entirely mine. This is interesting. I wonder what a slidey lever does. Maybe releases whatever this particular mechanism is. But it looks like there's a made on Jameson. Or Jemison. Interesting. Yeah, liking the look of that. Looks like they've got an slight upgrade to the sight here. This rear sight does look different to the other one. So, yeah, quite cool. Cool, so we got a little look at a couple of guns there. So we see the pistol firing off. It's a bit more chunky in its report compared to what it was earlier. Definitely looks a bit different. Obviously, this is a different sort of reflex sight on the back here. Looks like it's been modified to slow down the fire rate and do more per shot damage. We've got a reflex sight of some kind on here, which is fairly basic, kind of suits the rest of the design of the gun. Definitely make it easy to aim with. Not quite sure why the player isn't doing that, or why they haven't shown us footage of the player actually looking through that sight. Probably a case of available footage. They just didn't have anything that showed that off. And we've got another really big, heavy-looking gun here, with a lot of weird stuff going on. This Allied Armaments is the manufacturer here. This is the AR-99 again. I'm guessing there's been a whole load of stuff attached to this. Because, yeah, again, this is something we've seen earlier on, but it looks quite different. So, let's scrub back a tiny bit. That was much more rapid fire on the Equinox there, which is interesting. So that's probably a receiver mod that we didn't see. I didn't see any kind of receiver type mods in that section before, actually. Let's go back and have a quick look at that. Yeah, barrel, grip, optic sights, and muzzle, but I didn't see anything receiver type. But on the other hand, we've got a scroll bar here, so it may well be that it's just at the bottom on off screen. In fact, that makes a lot of sense. Especially as we've got 3 grip mods there, 3 optics mods here, only 2 barrel mods, which is interesting, but and 2 muzzle mod sections there. So it seems likely that there's probably some kind of receiver thing off the bottom here. There's a good another 40%, 50% of this list is available off the bottom of the screen. So okay. Yeah, definitely faster. Now, we didn't even get to see the AR-99 there firing, but we did get to see some weird, was it hexapod or some kind of creature like that? Did have a name. Metropus floater. So that's bringing in a Fallout element there with the floaters, definitely. Obviously, the styling is quite different. They're more alien and less... I don't want to say cartoon exactly, but you kind of know what I mean. And that's cool, I'm fine with that. Weird and wacky alien life forms. Let's be fair, floaters are about as alien as life forms get in Fallout. So, yeah, that kind of comes across nicely. We're looking at a level 15 enemy here, so a little bit later in the game. Makes sense as we're showing off upgrades at this point. Angler hexapod. Yeah, hexapod because he's got a pod-like body and 6 legs. Yeah, makes sense. Doesn't look like something you want to meet down a dark alley. Do wish we got to see this gun firing, but what can you do? Okay then, so there we go. Long old video, deep diving into the combat that we saw in Starfield here. So the one area of combat that you will probably have noticed that I haven't touched on is space combat, and I think we'll do that in a separate video, have a look at sort of spaceship, space combat, and what we've got available on that as well. So really happy to have a close-up look at this. I think despite initial reactions to some things maybe not looking the best, there is a lot of variety in the way guns perform and act and behave from what I can see there, which looks promising. Yeah, some of the AI is not that smart. I really hope it's a case that dumb, weak, low-level enemies are dumb and weak, and tougher ones are smarter and more difficult and more effective at hurting you, rather than just maxing out that health bar and resistances and avoiding that bullet spongy thing, because it looks like that might be the case here. So I'm definitely down for that if that is the case. And yeah, it looks interesting. There is a decent number of variety in there. We did see some weapons that had a lot more recoil. Gun sounds, either you're going to like them or they're not, I suppose. There's a variety in there. Some of them sound chunkier and heavier. Some of them sound very mechanical. There's a lot of mechanical sounds in there. I think there's a lot of variants in there that we can take as being 200 years of weapon development. I suspect if we found a gun today that was from 200 years in the future, we'd be like, holy god, this is different. So I think there's probably an element of that in there. Obviously things like just how much recoil does a weapon produce and stuff like that, that's the sort of thing that you want to improve on. As some of the optics and stuff look a little basic. We didn't see any sniper-type optics, which is a bit unfortunate. Saw something that looked like it might maybe possibly slightly have been a rocket launcher, but we didn't see it firing. We just saw a little bit of a reload animation, so we'll have to wait and see. They don't want to show us everything today, obviously, or yesterday rather, because they want to keep some surprises back for the coming months and when the game comes out. No surprises there when you think about it. So yeah, I think there's a lot more variety in here and a lot more to be confident about and happy about with the gunplay and the combat than perhaps first glance might show. Obviously, we're not talking about an insanely top-tier shooter here. That's not what Bethesda do. It was never going to be what the whole thing was about, but it looks reasonable, solid. It looks like a decent variety of weapons, the way they work, decent variety of upgrades. I think this is going to be perfectly good when it comes out next year and we get our hands on it. I don't think there's going to be any major complaints beyond basically nitpicking. So I think I'm okay with what I've seen so far. A little extra polish here and there would be nice. I think we need to see more gameplay, more context of the combat rather than just kind of snapshotty stuff, and then we can really get a better idea of what's going on. How much of that we'll see before the game comes out is an open question, really, but so far, based on what we've seen, I think it actually looks all right, and there's a decent variety in there, and most things do make sense. So, as I said before, if you haven't already checked it out, do check out the 4K video of this one. I will link it down below, and you can see it, because, as I say, the stream really didn't show it at its best. It didn't do it justice, I think is the phrase I'm looking for. So I do encourage you to check it out, and check it out on the best screen you can, I would suggest as well. So, on that note, I've been at this for over an hour, so I'll try and edit this down a little bit. But I do hope you enjoyed a proper deep dive, and I think at this video length we can call it a proper deep dive, into the combat that we've seen so far in the gameplay reveal. Let me know what you think. Do hope you enjoyed this one, found it interesting. I'm very, very excited, as I said the other day, about Starfield in general. If you want a more generalised first impressions overview, do check out that video that I linked up in the corner. I'll link some other bits and pieces of useful stuff on cards up in that corner as well if you want to check those out. Very, very much appreciate it. If you're liking the content, please do consider dropping subs and likes. I'm hyped for Starfield and fully expect it to be a very big part of the channel going forward. So like, subs, all that good stuff, notification bells, and then you can keep up with what we're doing and future content and stuff as well. Down below the video, as usual, social media links, merch store, channel memberships, all those other good buttons down there that very, very much help support the channel. I hugely appreciate the support in that way if you're interested in that. Massive thank you to everybody who's done that already. And if you get a chance, as I say, do join us for live streams as well. We're going to be carrying on, of course, with Fallout 76. We've got Mass Effect 3 to continue on with, and my plan actually is to play Doom Eternal next, so that should be good fun too. So if you'd like to join us for that, I very much appreciate that too. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.